Hello, Leanne Whitfield here from Providence Ministries. Have you ever stopped to think about a scripture and wonder what it actually means? Lately, I've been pondering over a very common scripture that's often quoted during group prayer sessions. And the quote, or what we normally hear, sounds something like this: "When two or three are gathered, I am among them." And I wonder, have you ever questioned that statement? When you stop to think about it, it raises some concerning questions. Is God only with us when we gather in groups? And if this is true, then what's the point of praying on our own? What happens if there's more than two or three people there? Will he still be among us? I thought that as Christians, we have the Spirit of God within us. So why are we talking about two or three people having his presence? Does God pay more attention and answer our prayers when there's two or three of us? And are there prayers that I pray on my own that are just not as powerful as when I'm in a group? There's so many questions over such a little verse that's quoted so often. You know, I grew up in a church and I had a lot of scripture quoted to me. And I didn't question it, I just accepted it as fact. And I tried to apply it even though some of it maybe didn't make sense to me. It was only when I was older and I began to question what I heard that I was shocked to discover that the things I'd thought were fact were actually distorted versions of the truth. This was when my passion for the word started to grow. You know, if I was going to be a God follower, I really needed to understand what his word actually meant. As Christians, we can sometimes become familiar with scripture and quote it again and again, and we pass it on without even thinking about it. And we can fail to go back and read the original text around it and step back and interpret the true meaning and surroundings of a verse. So this quote about two or three gathering comes from an actual passage in Matthew 18, verse 19. And this is how the verse reads: "Again, truly I tell you that if two of you on the earth agree about anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For when two or three gather in my name, there I am with them." So straight away we can see that this verse reads a little bit different to how it's often quoted. The verse begins with "again I tell you." So that leads us to believe that something similar must have been said before. So when we go further back in the passage and look at the whole passage, we see that this verse is found in, we see that there's a theme about correcting another believer. So it starts by saying that if another believer sins, go to them and point out their offense. And if they listen, then that's great. But if they don't, take one or two other witnesses and try again so that everything that you say will be confirmed by two or three witnesses. And then the verse goes on to say, "Again, I tell you," and that's the one that we're talking about. So when we consider the whole context of this writing, we can see that it was written to Jewish leaders about discipline in the church. So it's not about gaining God's attention or his favour. This verse reminds the leaders of the instructions written years before in Deuteronomy. We find it in chapter 19, verse 15. There's instructions to the people that you cannot convict someone on the testimony of only one witness. The facts of the case must be established by two or three witnesses. Now, what a vastly different light this puts on that scripture. God hears our prayers all the time, and he's with us always, and his spirit resides inside us. Our voice is valuable to God. I don't know about you, but that is a huge relief to me. It's so critical for us as believers to be proactive in studying the word. Not so that we can become these theological giants, but so that we can know how to properly apply it to our lives. Growing in wisdom in the scriptures also allows us to discern the words of others and not be misled by misinterpretations of the word. As Paul prayed for the church in Philippi, I pray this same prayer for you and for me today. Philippians 1:9 says, "I pray that your love will overflow more and more, and that you will keep on growing in knowledge and understanding. For I want you to understand what really matters, so that you may live pure and blameless lives until the day of Christ's return." Just want to encourage you today Spend time in the Word. Look at the whole context of the Word, because it will encourage your life and it will help you to make decisions that line up exactly with Scripture. Hope you have a great week. Great sharing with you today. See you.